Good evening, welcome to the latest live edition of Last World Boxing. Joined by regulars Ander. Good evening, Ander.
Evening, buddy.
And also joined by Sean. How you going, Sean?
Yep, good evening, guys.
So, a bit light this week, aren't we, guys, on the boxing front? But we'll do our best to make this as entertaining as possible. So, Ander, first topic then, we'll go through the GBM card that's happening tomorrow night in Doncaster that we're attending. So, as ever, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, so first and foremost, I went up to the weigh-in this afternoon. Was made extremely welcome by the GBM team. They've got something different going on here, Carl. It's based. The way I would describe it is very high-end small all. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
The first show we went to a show a while back in Doncaster, which was great. The production's fantastic on it, and I'm assuming this will be very, very similar. The production at the weigh-in was good again today. They look like they're going places. They look very serious about where they're gonna approach. And if I was some of these big boys, I'd be a little bit concerned going forward because I think these have got some money. I think they're very serious. Azzy Asif, the promoter, he's a mad boxing fan and he's very serious about what he's doing. So onto the weigh-in today. As Cole's put on the screen there, it's dubbed the Battle of Yorkshire, and that is because the headliner is Reece Mould from Doncaster versus Hamed Gaz from Bradford for the English lightweight title, and this got a little bit tasty today. I don't know whether there's history between them, but it was quite spiky. The face-off, the weigh-in itself was quite spiky. Little bit of drama because Hamed missed weight. I think he was like 6 ounces out, which the Mould team jumped all over. So I'm looking forward to going to this tomorrow, Carl. Me and Carl are going to it. There's going to be some footage dropping later on of the weigh-in, and there'll be some footage tomorrow from interviews from post fights. So yeah, really looking forward to it. There's some other good names on the card. Super Stevie Levy is fighting Beck Connolly.
Good fight.
Yeah, good fight. Beck Connolly's been in with everybody, hasn't she?
Yeah.
You look on her record, and she's been in with just about everyone. So this is a real yardstick for Stevie Levy. She's one of those fighters. I don't know whether any of you have seen any interviews she's done. She's proper got the gift of the gab. Very entertaining. And if she can move on in the levels, she could make a really, really big name for herself. Beck Connolly's a good
gatekeeper is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, probably. Without being, I don't think that's being.
No, I don't think that's a derogatory term, is it?
I don't think that's being rude to her. Yeah, she's. I mean, look at a record reads 3-16-0, and that's a bit unfair to her because, like I say, she's been in with some real top end fighters, so it's a good measuring stick, let's say. Also on the card, friend of the show, Nicola Hopewell, she's going in against very tough, durable Ivanka Ivanu, I think her name is pronounced, who last time out was on a boxer show against Shannon Ryan.
Another good yardstick.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Nicola's only let's remember Nicola's only 2-0. I know she had some Bieber fights. She had a very good amateur record, but she's only 2 with the British Boxing Board. So this is quite a big step up at this stage in a pro career. Because this Ivanka is very, very tough. Only been stopped 3 times in 29 fights. So very tough, very tough. Again, Ivanka's been in with lots of big names. The last time she got stopped was by Laura Parker.
She's 36, isn't she?
Yeah, but very, very. I mean, she's not coming ever here to lay over. That's for certain. That's not a style. That's not what she does. There's other names on the bill. Another one of Sheffield. Well, there's actually quite a few Sheffield fighters on this card. Joe Jenkins, he's going in against a real long time journeyman in MJ Hall.
You know, the only thing I don't like about this fight, Andy, is when they've got future fights planned, because that means they're coming to spoil the fight and they don't want to get cut, etc.
The problem with are you on about MJ Hall there?
I am.
The problem with journeyman, Carl, is it's the living, and they have to have planned fights. They have to have
What I'm
fights
saying
planned
is,
in.
from a matchmaking perspective, though, it's not easy for Jenkins to look good in that fight, because inevitably he's going to come and tuck up and survive. He's in survival mode, isn't he?
I mean, we will have all seen MJ Hall at times on cards, probably not even realised, but he's a very awkward fighter to look good against. So Joe Jenkins has got it all on. He'll more than likely get the victory, but it's how you look in these fights sometimes, isn't it? When you want to move on and get the next level of opponent, it's difficult. Dave Allen's, as you're probably well aware, he's now a trainer as well as a fighter. He's got 2 fighters on this bill. Stevie Levy's one of them, and the other one is a very, very good talent in Joe Hayden. We've seen him a few times now. He's currently sat at 6-0, and he's going in against Jake Osgood. Real big prospect from Sheffield, Sheldon McDonald, who, by all accounts, is being mentored by Johnny Nelson. I don't know if that's fact.
Yeah, it is a fact.
I think that's the case. He's going in against a guy called Bradley Davis. So Sheldon's looking to move on to big things. We've had a chat with him in the past. Seems like a nice character.
Again, interesting that Davis has got 2 fights lined up.
Yeah, it's the way of a journeyman, mate. Like I say, this is how they met. They don't have daytime jobs. This is how they make the living.
I fully understand how they make the living. All I'm saying is, from a perspective of looking good in there with him, it's very, very difficult.
Well, the thing, it's like this, isn't it? If that journeyman gets caught, he then can't fight their next fights, and they get passed on to another journeyman. It's just how it is. It's just how it is. Couple more Sheffield prospects that are all under the banner Izzy Asif's GBM stable, home fighters, because he talked quite a lot about them at the weigh-in. No Man Hussein is one of them. He's currently 1-0, but Izzy's talks really high of him. And another one is currently 5-0, and that's Farrakat Ali. Both fighters that he really has high hopes for. And then the last one on the card, I don't know what order these are going in, by the way, at the moment. The last one on the card is Bree Burberry. She's another Sheffield fighter. So as you can imagine, this weigh-in was in a hotel in Sheffield today. So as you can imagine, there was a lot of support for the Sheffield from the Sheffield.
See, that one does intrigue me, because they're both around similar stages of the career. So that one would be intriguing.
Joyce Van A, maybe, from Belgium is her opponent. There's some good matches in here, as well as some fighters against journeymen that you'd expect the home fighter to come across easily. But the two picks for me that are going to be really interesting fights. The Reese Mould fight is going to be a barnstormer. Really looking forward to that. And the Nicola Hopewell fight, because Ivanka is no pushover. Don't be fooled by a record. She's a very, very tough girl. But me and Carl are both going to this tomorrow night. So, big shout out for GBM. They've been really good.
Doing some good stuff.
and looked after me really well today.
So moving on from the GBM show, let's move on to the Boxer show on Saturday night. Good evening, Lee. How you doing?
Evening, guys. How are we doing? Are you all right?
All good, all good.
Good.
So, Andy, what we'll do, we'll go through this card if you've got it up, and we'll bring Sean and Lee in to give their opinions first. Okay, just give them a little bit of airtime.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't want to do it on the GBM card because there's a bunch of fighters in there that they probably don't know a lot about. So, say again, Lee.
No, I wouldn't have done, to be fair.
Yeah, the fighters on the journey, aren't they? So, okay, Boxer card. I'm not going to go through every single fighter, but I'll pick on ones that you are going to know. So we'll start with Vidal Riley, currently sat at 7-0. He's in an 8-rounder cruiserweight against Anish Taj, who's currently 7-2. So, Lee, I'll come to you. Vidal started his life out as a bit of a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Then took himself off to America and had a few fights over there. Even though he's British, he didn't start his career in the UK. He's come back and looking very seriously about what he's doing. What do you think of Vidal? Where do you think he goes?
I like Vidal Riley. I think he carries. I think he looks a prospect. I think he carries himself well in interviews. He's got a massive following from. I think he's involved with like KSI and the Sidemen and all of that kind of influencer stuff. But he's not an influencer boxer. He is a boxer.
Yeah.
I think he makes light work of this one Saturday. I don't know. Just picking up on his interviews and that. He's just a likable person. I find, and I don't see him having any issues. But yeah, I think he needs to try and distance himself from trying to be labelled an influencer boxer because he's certainly not that.
Sean, what about you, mate? What do you think of him?
Yeah, I think he's competent enough from what I've seen so far. I think he started under the Mayweather banner, didn't he, over in Dubai or somewhere? I think that's where I really started to take notice of him. But I think he'll come through this weekend fairly comfortable. And then I guess he wants to sort of be on an English title level by the end of the year, I would have thought.
Carl?
Yeah, he's done nothing wrong, has he? To be honest with you, I quite like the way he's developed his social media profile. Again, does he get to the top of the cruiserweight division? I'm not so sure about that, but I think he's definitely around British European level. I think he can achieve that. I don't think he gets anywhere near world honours. But then again, cruiserweight's a funny weight because when people do get up near that world level, they decide to go to the heavyweight division to earn a pound note. So, yeah, I think he's still trying to sort his credibility out a little bit. He's still some people still level that at him. That is, throwing in with the likes of Jake Paul and that. But no, he's done nothing wrong for me. Takes the game seriously. That's all he can ask for.
Okay, moving on. Hassan Azim is in against Abdullah Luanja. So Hassan, I don't think I'm being rude by saying this. Unfortunately, he seems to be in his brother's shadow a little bit.
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Word for word, what I was going to say.
Would that be fair?
Yeah, literally word for word, I was going to say exactly the same thing.
And because of that, he probably doesn't get the push, or at least it doesn't look that way that his brother gets, because obviously his brother's headlining this show, and he is real talented. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll start with you on this one, Carl. Do you think Hassan's anywhere near the level of Adam?
No, in a word. I think it was quite apparent quite quickly when they're both on the same bill that there's night and day between the talent between the two. And it's been demonstrated in the ring, hasn't it? And obviously, Boxer are putting more commercial effort into one rather than the other. So I think, unfortunately, it's going to be the B side out the brothers for a significant period, to be honest.
Sean, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think Hassan goes places? Or do you think he's got quite a bit to learn still?
Yeah, I think he's got quite a bit to learn. I guess from a boxer's perspective, it's obviously a big ticket instead of having both, especially when they want to take him to their hometown or the area they're from, sort of having both brothers. I can see that. But yeah, I don't think he's on the same level of his brother, and I think he's got a long way to go.
Lee, I know you just said you're going to echo what I said earlier on, but
yeah, I don't. From what I've seen, he's not a bad boxer, but he's. I mean, let's be honest, he's on these shows because of who his brother is. I don't see him. I don't want to do like too much of a disjustice to him, but I don't see him reaching those heights. You only got to look at like the Atoma brothers the other week, haven't you? And it doesn't always work when you've got one headline act and then the other one's fighting on the bill below. It doesn't always go to plan. But good luck to him. But yeah, he is in his brother's shadow, and he unfortunately he will be because his brother's such a talent.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Okay, moving on. Caroline Dubois has a 6th outing as a pro. Am I right in thinking original opponent pulled out just recently and they've struggled to get somebody for her? I'm sure I read that somewhere. So I don't know if the opponent I've got written down is actually her opponent.
I don't know.
I've not read that, to be honest.
It'll make no difference anyway, will it? Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, the opponent they got for her had an half-decent record. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name, to be fair, but it's 10-7, the record that she had. So a bit more durable than she was having recently. She's now.
Is it Mishwari she's fighting? I thought she's fighting Mishwari. Or...
Yes, that's who I've got down, mate. But I'm not sure whether that's changed now.
Okay.
Like I said, they really struggled. I'm sure I read it somewhere that an opponent pulled out just in recent couple of days. But anyway, I might be wrong on that. I mean, difficult to really say much about Caroline at the minute, isn't it? She's bulldozing the level she's at, but maybe still a little bit too green to be moving on to anything bigger. She's in a bit of a difficult... Because we spoke about female boxing not really being that deep when it comes to talent. So you seem to have kind of lower end British level, and then all of a sudden it jumps straight up. There's no in between to build a fighter. You kind of get thrown in,
isn't it? It's about a third of the journey in terms of amateur fights, in terms of getting yourself ready, going up the levels. It is about a third of the men's career because you don't need that many fights before you reach that level. And I just feel with Caroline Dubois at the moment, she's shown that she's level above these opponents. What is she learning? What is she getting out of fighting these people?
Exactly. Yeah,
it's about putting her name out there. But she's a Dubois. People know who she is. They know who her brother is. The name rings about like they haven't got to worry about that. They need to be moving her up quicker than what they are. I think. Look, this weekend they could have given her a bit of a sterner test, and to give her another like one rounder, which is what it's going to be. That's not for me.
So a couple of comments in the side. Good evening, Joe. Joe said biggest talent in the country bar none. She's special. And then Philip Westerman. Good evening, Philip. It won't make a difference with Caroline Dubois. She's a level above anyone around her at the moment.
I agree with the two lads in the sidebar as well. But question to the two lads and you guys, where'd you take her then? Because Gina, do you put her in against, I don't know, a former world champion? Do you bring somebody up from maybe the weight below? Because it's a real tough division she's in.
It's a conundrum, isn't it? Because the trouble is with British, especially British boxing fans, is we don't want to keep seeing her in knockover fights.
No.
Because we get bored, don't we?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So I'm not sure, but then again, there's not always a depth in female fighting either. So like you've said, you often go from 0 to 100 in the space of 2 fights. So difficult one. Very difficult.
Sure. What would you do with her now?
I don't know. As you've all alluded to, it's really hard to match because of the gaps in between the levels. I guess Shane McGuigan knows best. I mean, look how he's built up Eddie Scotney, for example. I think they've done a good job with her. So I think doing something similar with Dubai will have to do what they have to do, really.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. Phil Westerman in the sidebar has commented saying, sometimes you just have to throw the kid in the pool and see if they can swim.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's right for Caroline. She certainly isn't going to look out of place at world level.
Well, she's that young. You could argue that's not a bad thing to do because she can come again anyway. One defeat's not going to define her, is it, at that age?
Well, plus, this could lead her into a false sense of security, couldn't it? Like, just maybe even European level, anything like that. But she doesn't need to be taking these. I'm sure she's having harder spars in her gym as she is with these fights, without a doubt.
Of course she is, mate. She's getting more rounds and harder rounds in sparring without a shadow of a doubt.
She'd have had harder spars in the GB squad. Let's be honest.
Yeah. It's a bit silly, isn't it? It is a bit silly, but good luck to her. Okay,
moving on. The next fight is for the English middleweights title, and it's Tyler Denny, currently sat at 15-2-3 against Bradley Pauls. For me, mate, this might be the fight of the night. Carl, I'll come to you on this one. How do you see this panning out?
Yeah, it's a good fight, isn't it? It's a good trade fight. Very close fight. What I've seen of both fighters, they're probably of a similar level, to be honest. So I think this is going to be a bit of an humdinger. See, Pauls has never been beat, has he? So he's not tasted defeat. So I'm going to lean towards him. I think he's slightly the fresher of the two fighters. So I think this is going to points. So I think he's going to points. And I think Pauls might just take it on the points. So that's how I see it. I think he's slightly the fresher.
So, Joe in the sidebar, just before I come to you and Lee and you, Sean, Joe in the sidebar echoes what Carl's just said. Good scrap, no idea who wins. I'm a bit like that.
Yeah.
Throw it up in the air and see what lands. But I'll let you have a crack at it, Sean.
Yeah, I have to be brutally honest. I don't really know a great deal about either of them, so I can't really give too much of an opinion on this one, I'm afraid.
Okay, Lee. You have a go, mate.
I've been going back and forth with this one. And so much so I watched the Pauls fight against Ryan Kelly back this morning. Because I thought, looking at his record, he's got a good record, hasn't he, Bradley Pauls? Yeah. But actually watching that fight back, he didn't win that fight. He lost that fight. And I think he knew he lost that fight. If you watch his reaction afterwards, you watch the interview. So although he's coming off the back of a win, technically he didn't win that fight. So I had him to win this Saturday. But watching it back and seeing the reactions, I'm not so sure. Tyler Denny's been in there, hasn't he? It's hard to call. Yeah, my original prediction was Pauls, but I don't know. I'm not so sure. I can't call it.
I absolutely love these British title fights because they're never a one-sided pushover affair. Never. They're always very, very well matched. Two fighters that have either got unbeaten records or have got very good records, and this is the case here. And I can't split it. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it because I think it's going to be the fight of the night.
Yeah.
Moving on to a 10-round super middleweight fight. Zach Chelly is going in against Anthony Sims Jr.
No, this is my fight of the night.
This is intriguing. This is intriguing for me because Anthony Sims has gone under the radar for a very, very long time. It seems he gets picked up by a promoter. They do nothing with him, and then he kind of falls into the shadows again.
Yeah, he had a bit of momentum going in Britain at one time, didn't he?
He did under Matchroom. He did, yes, and he's got a really good record on paper.
He can bang.
23 with 20 knockouts and one loss. So Zach Chelly's in for a real tough night. If he thinks that he's gonna get an easy night's work, he certainly isn't. Seems like you just had a little comment on it, Cole. Give us your prediction for this.
Yeah, I'll keep this nice and short for you because I don't have splinters in my arse like you three do when it comes to giving predictions. So I think Zach Chelly's at his depth here. I don't particularly think he's even fringe world level. I think there's holes in his game, and I think Simmons is going to beat him. In fact, I think he's going to stop him. I think he's going to stop him. It's I'm going around 7. I think Zach Chelly's going to find out where his level is in this fight.
Sean, how do you see this? Do you rate Anthony Sims?
Yeah, I do. I've spoken to him a little bit on social media in the past, and yeah, he's a really likable guy. I agree with Carl. I think he stops Chelly. I don't think Chelly's of any substance really, and I think Sims wins sort of mid rounds.
Yeah, Zach Chelly only fought once last year, which is a bit worrying for someone at the time in his career. He ought to be fighting a bit more than that. Lee, do you think Zach Chelly's at the right level to be taking on someone like Anthony Sims?
I think this has been leveled up, right? I think because people know who Chelly is. Because I disagree that it's going to be fight of the night. Because I honestly don't. I think Anthony Sims Jr. is going to be too much for him. I think it's when you look at it on paper, it looks a really good fight. But I think Anthony Sims Jr. is a level above him, in my opinion.
Do you want to put them comments up? Ryan's holding back as ever.
I love it when Ryan O'Rourke comes on. 2 bums, but I think the better bum, Sims, wins easy. Chelly's a Weatherspoon fighter.
He can't even spell his name right for a start. It's a good one.
Hey, leave Ryan alone.
Phil Westerman's put Sims in 9. Joe's put, I agree with Carl. Sims Jr. KOs Chelly. Always has his chin in the air. Yeah, he gets cut a lot as well. He's quite wild, Chelly, into. I don't like to agree with Carl. It goes against my nature, but I'm going to.
At least you'll be right once in a blue moon, and if I do agree with you.
I have to agree with you on this one, mate. I can only see this fight going one way. I don't even think it goes mid rounds. I think Chelly's really out of his depth.
Well, he hadn't long been full time, has he? Because he was doing teaching one until recently. So I do wonder how seriously he takes the sport anyway.
Yeah, like I say, he only had that one fight last year. It makes me wonder whether his heart's fully in it. I don't know the guy, so it's probably wrong for me to say that.
Hey, Lee. Ryan says it was spelt like that on purpose. I'm taking the P out of him. May as well with the name. So I told you, Lee, leave Ryan alone.
I'll let him
He's a live dog. Ryan is.
I'll let him off.
Moving on. Before this gets a bit naughty with you and Ryan in the sidebar, Lee. Moving on to the headliner, Adam Azim against Santos Reyes. This is a 10-rounder again. Not that I think it goes 10 rounds. Adam Azim is a serious talent with dynamite in his hands. This kid is going all the way and can do whatever he wants, in my opinion. I'll say it right now that he'll be a 2 or 3 weight world champion.
How's that Conor Ben thing getting on for you anyway, where it was going to be a world title?
It's a bit difficult. It's a bit difficult when the guy's banned, isn't it, mate?
Well, I'm sure you've had about 5 years to get that one over the line. But anyway, moving on.
We've only been going 2, so that'd be a bit difficult, wouldn't it?
Well, you said in 12, didn't you?
No, I said in 2 years, actually.
Well, you're 2 years up then.
Yeah, well, he spent 6 months out the ring.
You will never win a world title.
Let's get back to the topic in hand. Lee.
Yeah.
I've just given you a statement of what I think Adam Azim's going to do in the near future. Where do you see him going? This is obviously a bit of a step up in comparison to the level he's fought at, with Santos being, unbeaten.
I thought he'd get a standard test against Ryland Charlton. I remember.
I told you on the show, didn't I, mate? Ryland Charlton was made for him because he comes forward.
Yeah. I was proved wrong on that. But again, he's a talent, and he does look. So he wouldn't be headlining shows at this point in his career if he wasn't. So they obviously know he's something special. I want to see him. I want to see him taken a bit further into the rounds. I think this guy could possibly do it.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, then who are you going to put him in with? Because it's not like we were saying about Carroll and Dubois earlier. It's not like they're putting him with someone with a bad record. I don't know a lot about his opponent, but 12-0. He's got to have something about him, isn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's difficult. He's future world champion for sure.
The thing is as well. He needs to have at this stage in his career. He needs to have rounds. He needs to have a durable opponent that takes him. Because the problem is, if he has his next 5 or 6 or 7 fights and he's knocking people over in 2 or 3 rounds, what happens when he gets to that next level and the fighter doesn't fall over in 2 or 3 rounds and he ends up going further with a much better opponent and not really having the experience to do it?
That's what happened with AJ, though, wasn't it?
It's happened with a number of fighters, mate. Yeah, Cole.
I think he'll get some rounds out of this guy. You know, I think he's tough and durable. He ain't going to win the fight, don't get me wrong, but I think he might get some rounds out of Azim, which he needs, don't he? Like you said, can't keep bringing opponents in that he's going to blast out in the round because it just does him no favours whatsoever. So, yeah, I think this will go 7, 8, 9. I think we'll get a good solid 9 rounds out of this, 7, 8, 9, something like that. A bit more durable, but he'll win. I just think it's difficult. He's so young. He's so young, isn't he? Long career ahead of him. So, yeah.
So Ryan O'Rourke's put, this is going to be a real scrap. I think this could be an early KO or a war for me. But this is a headliner. It's a poor card. Joe's gone on to say, the only thing we don't know about Double A is can he take a shot? Remember, we were saying the same thing about Khan, but I'm on board with the assassin.
His chin's not been tested yet, has it?
No. And quite often with a banger, someone that punches really, really hard are susceptible to shots because they don't get it. You know, for the reason we've been saying, you know, he's putting people away in 2 or 3 rounds. Okay. Sean, I think you're the only person that's not had a say on this. Give us your prediction, mate.
Yeah, he's a talent. He's a talent for sure, but I'm a bit wary about sort of putting him on a pedestal just yet. After all, we've seen with people like Lewis Ritson at this sort of level in his career, he was knocking people out, and then look what happened to him. So I'm a bit wary of putting him on a pedestal, but for sure he's a talent, and I expect him to come through on the weekend.
Fair point, Sean.
Phil has put, I don't even think this is a test for Azim. That's the problem. He needs testing. But he's so good. Where do you step him up to?
The thing is, obviously everyone's saying about how good he is. And like he's this prospect, he's all this. And I think he is from what I've seen. But it's only from what I've seen, and I haven't seen a lot. So I don't know. I can't say how far he's going to go, how good he's going to be without him having a harder fight, I guess.
I think we're all thinking along the similar lines.
And that's not his fault.
When he goes in against somebody that can punch, aren't we?
Yeah.
Moving slightly away from the topic, Ryan O'Rourke has put, ain't been on the show since Eubank Smith predictions. Let's go B for Eubank and his excuses. Shame on him. Carl, you're nodding your head.
I agree. I think the debacle after the fights regarding the elbow is a bit of disgrace. I know Eubank's got 7 days to accept the rematch or let it go. I still think Eubank Jr. will take the rematch because he's got nowhere else to go. So yeah, I just think to shake Liam Smith hand in the ring like he did, which I thought was very noble of him, and then to come out of all this afterwards. No, not for me.
I've seen that combination where apparently the elbow lands from various angles at various speeds, and it's absolute rubbish.
And also, Andy, don't forget Joe McNally's role in this, where he jumped in the ring to save him, taking another few punches because he still thought he was in a fight.
Well, Smith was ready to go again.
That's what I mean. So, and then to still come out of all this crap afterwards just smacks of bad sportsmanship.
I'm telling you right now, if Eubank had stepped up to Smith at that point, he would have ended up taking some more shots because Smith once took it off him. So Joe McNally did a fantastic job there, and doesn't get the praise he deserves for it. Where were Eubank's corner? They haven't even got in the ring. Lee, if you was advising Chris Eubank Jr.,
he'd want a lot of money.
what would you be telling him right now? Would you be saying to him, Roy Jones is doing nothing for you?
You wouldn't want me advising him, mate. I'll tell you.
You're right.
Give me your honest opinion.
Honestly, I'd tell him to stop being a dickhead, because he is. I would say there's no point fighting Liam Smith again because you're going to get the same outcome. You clearly cannot drain yourself to this weight. And I'd say, look, you've got two options. You either want to do what you've done your whole career, and that's try and just make as much money on the back of your dad's name, which is what he has done, and he has made a hell of a lot of money off the back of his dad's name. Or you've got to go back to basics. But for me, it's too late for that. So I don't know. I don't think Roy Jones Jr. is the right trainer for him anyway. But the trouble is, he's gone out and he's got a trainer like Roy Jones Jr. and he's got someone else in his ear now, which is what he needed a long, long time ago. But maybe it's not the right one, but it's better than having his old man's, because his old man held him back for so long. But I think his old man was protecting him.
Remember, Lee, he went to Adam Booth and it only lasted about a week, didn't it? Because Adam couldn't work with it.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's just a
situation. I mean,
that's a clash of personalities, isn't it? They're both, yeah.
Yeah, because I'd imagine Adam Booth is going to tell him how it is, which a trainer should be doing.
Yeah. He's just, he's done for me.
Sean, he goes into the fight against Smith and tries fighting like Roy Jones for the 3.5 rounds it lasted, with his chin up in the air every time he come out of a combination. That's a regression in my opinion. Roy Jones might have been one of the best fighters of all time. He's certainly not one of the best coaches of all time. I know, you've got your ear to the ground a little bit more down on the South Coast.
Has it? That's a big claim.
He has, because he's from he's from the surrounding areas, so he knows what's going on.
Just nod, Sean. Just nod.
Where do you see Eubank going now, Sean?
I don't know. I think it's a difficult one for him. Obviously, losing his brother's a massive blow to him, and obviously his dad's not been in the best of health as well. So, if I'm being honest, I think he needs to just take some time out for himself to process what's going on in his life, really, and not do anything too drastic. Liam Smith will always be there for him if he wants to fight him, but I think the best thing he can do now is just take time out, reassess, and see what he wants to do in, I don't know, 6 months' time.
What about jumping in with Billy Joe Saunders when he returns? Get him nice and early.
Yeah, well, again, that fight's always going to be there for him, but I think mentally more than anything, he needs to be in the right frame of mind and maybe change trainer. And we'll see.
Is that you or me?
I think you might. Sure.
But,
I'll just pick some comments up in the side, Andy, while we work out, Sean.
Yeah, there was a comment there, and I've lost it. Oh, here we go. Rhino Rourke's come out with a really good comment. He had a good guy in his ear, didn't listen. Ronnie Davis has all the Smith brothers' respect. He's just not used. I don't understand the dynamic. It's like they forgot what he did as a coach for his old man. It's a bit strange, that one, Carl, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a clear reluctance here to use him, isn't there? I don't know why.
Fair enough, right? Maybe not have him as your main coach because of his age. You know, maybe he's not able to take pads like he used to. But use the guy's knowledge and experience. It just don't make any sense to me.
No.
It don't seem like they are. It just, he's kind of sat in the shadows in the background. It's a bit disrespectful, in my opinion.
So Ryan O'Rourke also said, if I was advising him, I'd tell him to retire. He's made enough money being a bum. Don't go up in weight and get KO'd and damage your health. And Phil Westerman says, has anyone really rated Eubank?
I never did. The problem is, Phil, he listened too much to his dad in the early days and believed that he didn't need a full-time trainer. And that was the biggest mistake he could have made. And he never corrected himself from it.
I just don't think he's good enough.
No.
But the thing is though, Carl, if someone had have got hold of him early on, he might have been. Because he had the chin, he had the engine, he's got all the shots, he was quick, but just something was just missing. And maybe it was the right direction.
I just think when you get to world level, you've got to be able to go to places other people can't go. And I just don't think he had that in him.
Not being able to change a style mid-fight as well don't help. But if you've not got a proper coach in your corner, how can you do that? If sometimes you need to, when you're right in the middle of it, you think you're winning rounds and you think you're doing this and you think you're doing that. Sometimes you need somebody that's sat in a corner to turn around and say, hold on a minute, this isn't working.
So Ryan O'Rourke says he's got no brain, Andy, for boxing. So
I think I'm getting the impression here Ryan don't like him very much.
I just don't think he's just not as good as his dad was. And I think the Eubank name's weighed heavy on his shoulders, if I'm honest.
He's definitely done that. I just hope this whole situation humbles him a little bit. You don't seem to have, because he's coming out with the elbow thing, and that's just not a very good look. Anyway, moving on, Carl.
So let's go for this one. Rumours circulating that Conor Benn is going to be fighting Manny Pacquiao. Where do we start with the Conor Benn situation? By all accounts, he's going to prove his innocence, although we've not seen the paper yet. I know we've got all that about legality. We'll start with Lee. Lee, what do we do with Conor Benn?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like banging my head against the wall about the whole Conor Benn situation.
Well, we're no further forward, are we? These weeks keep passing by and passing by.
I've defended him as well to the hills, and the thought of him fighting Manny Pacquiao that just screams desperation to me. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense for me. I think they're just trying to keep him relevant. It's getting harder and harder to defend him, if I'm being honest.
Sean, same question to you. Talk to me about Conor Benn and what you think is going to play out. Ryan, I'm ignoring that comment that you made, by the way, just to clarify. So, Sean, how do you think this is going to play out? Talk about him getting back in the WBC rankings. How can that happen? Robert Smith doing media interviews next week saying that he can't currently box in obviously Britain until he clears his name. Just give us your thoughts. He's either very composed or he's froze. So Andy, we'll come to you why Sean's having a bit of a nightmare.
Makes a
On the
change makes a change from it being me, mate, don't it?
Sean's having one, isn't he?
So, as you know, Carl, I've been a big advocate of Conor Benn over the last 2 years. I made that prediction that I thought he could be world champion within 2 years, a couple of years ago when we first started the show. And his trajectory is telling me that could happen. And then all this happened, all this goes off. And he really isn't covering himself with much glory here. Just stay quiet, let your lawyers do the job, and then see what happens. Because putting statements out saying, I told you that the science had proved me innocent and stuff like that. Well, you're putting statements out about a 200-page dossier that the British Boxing Board and Control, by the way, have never seen. Ben's team are only seemingly dealing with the WBC because they want to get him back in the rankings. According to the British Boxing Board, they've had no contact from anyone in the Ben camp. It just doesn't look. It just doesn't look good. Whoever's telling him to put out these social media statements, it's just not good. It's not a good look. Stay quiet. Do your training. Get yourself in the gym. Do what you need to do to get ready. And then once this is all done and dusted, one way or the other, you can get back to your boxing career. This smacks Cole a little bit of situations that we've had in the past where certain fighters, and I don't want to drag names up because it's all done and dusted, but certain fighters supposedly fail drugs tests, but then get cleared, but you never see any evidence. And I think the same thing will happen here. I don't think the public's ever going to see anything. I think we're just going to be told he's clear. He'll get back to boxing again, and we'll never see it.
It's damaged his brand, though, hasn't it? Massively.
It has damaged his brand. I hope for the kid's sake. I really do hope for the kid's sake that everything gets cleared up and we do get to see it all, and he can get back to boxing. Because he had a bright future, mate. He's still only, 25? Something like that.
So I've been a couple of comments over the side, Under. So Joe said Ben's hiding behind legal chat. There's no way he fights Manor. We all know the truth. Ryan says, at least with Fury, Ban, Billy Joe Saunders, etc., they already had a decent career. Ben has been caught with a shit resume. Nothing going for him now. Phil Westerman said, apparently it's only his lawyers that are engaging with the authorities, and the same lawyers defended doped cyclists. It's unfortunate because I want to see him scrap again, but clarity is needed. I agree with the clarity bit.
Absolutely. I was a big fan of his style. I was a big fan of his aggression. He reminded me at times so much of his old man.
He was the next big pay-per-view star as well.
Yeah. And he should have been, Lee. He should have been.
You can't help but have a question mark now, can you? This trajectory that everyone talks about, there's a big question mark over it.
It's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you two things. He's either not guilty and he's going to prove his innocence, but he still have question marks over his name, or he is guilty and he's going to get whatever's going to come his way like he should, but he won't be the fucking only one that is, because there'll be plenty of others that are doing it. And it's not saying that's right, but because he's in the spotlight so much, he's going to get it so much worse. So if he is guilty, it's hard to feel sorry for him, but part of me, I don't know. I feel for him at the moment where his career's at, put it that way.
Lee, do you, CAD, need to look at themselves here?
What's that, mate?
Do you, CAD, need to look at themselves here? Because they didn't pick this up. Varda did.
Not. I suppose UCAD, to a point, they are only testing for certain things. And if they're not testing for that certain drug, then how bad can that drug be? And the same with if Chris Eubank Jr.'s camp knew he had that in his system and they were still willing to fight, how bad can it be? So from that angle, no. I think the most accountable people here are the British Board of Control. Shocking. The British Boxing Board of Control are more accountable than Ben, Hearn, Sauerland, all of them, because they knew.
How can they be more accountable than Ben?
They're more because he's passed a UCAD test, hasn't he? And they've
But ultimately, he's still responsible for what goes into his body.
But they're responsible for his license, right? Are they sanctioned the fight?
He's responsible for what goes in his body, though, right? So that outweighs anything like that, surely.
Not if he's put it in unknowingly, which we don't know, do we? But all you can say, one fact, that's not a fact at the moment, is it? But one fact is that the British Board of Control knew about this result, and they knew about the 2 tests, and they didn't cancel the fight until the papers got wind of it. And then just by chance, the next morning, they cancelled the fight. That's a fact. Whether Conor Benn took it knowingly or not isn't at the moment. It may well be, it may come up, but so for me, that's why the British Board of Control.
I still think ultimately, as a professional athlete, the book's got to stop with you regarding what you're putting into your body.
Not always, mate. You got nutrition issue. You can't. It's difficult.
Who are part of your team?
Yeah, but okay. So you can put trust in the wrong person. Have you never done that?
But I'm not a professional athlete. There's a lot on the line.
It doesn't matter, does it?
Well, it does, because there's a lot on the line, and you know what you can and can't take. So it seems I don't buy this bullshit about it. So you're passing the responsibility on there. Ultimately, it's your responsibility.
Okay, what about Canelo then with the contaminated meat?
I'd still say it's Canelo's team. The book stops with Canelo for me.
But he hasn't had half the crap that Conor Benn had. Not half of it. Not even a quarter.
It comes back to the same line for me. It's your responsibility. Regarding who takes the most shit for doing it, I'm not.
Okay. So is it more accountable to be responsible for boxers' safety or the boxers themselves? Because the British Board of Control are there for boxers' safety, and they were willing to let this fight happen until it went to the press. That's a fact.
My point being, that's all irrelevant if you make sure you're eating the right food and that isn't getting into your body, because then the test will come back clear. So however you want to word it and dance around the subject, all comes back to the same thing.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in here? Because I think you're both right. I think you're both right. Cole, you're right that it's down to the fighter, and whoever he has in his team, the book stops with the fighter. At the end of the day, the nutritionist gets paid by Ben. So you're right in that. And if he is taking something illegally, he deserves to be banned. I understand where Lee's coming from, in that it's the responsibility not only of the British Boxing Board, but also the promoters. Because let's have it right, both promoters were happy for this fight to go ahead. They were even going to take him to court. And the only reason they didn't do that was because of the public outcry. This fight would have gone ahead. If the public had laid down and gone, yeah, let's have the fight, this would have gone ahead under a different license. They've tried making out, Ern and the Sowlers have tried making out since the fight, we would never have gone to Luxembourg, we would never have gone elsewhere. They would have, because the fight was massive and the money was massive. The only reason they cancelled the fight in the end was because of the public outcry. And not only the public outcry, but outcry from ex-boxers, pundits, officials. That's the only reason the fight got cancelled. So it's not just...
Well, boxing would have been fucked, wouldn't it? If that fight would have gone ahead, boxing would have been fucked.
Yeah,
it would be like the Wild West.
Yeah, it would have been in tatters, mate.
But the two promoters, the Board of Control were willing to let that happen at one point.
Yes,
and
they were. I completely agree with you. But the promoters were as well. They're as much responsible as the British Boxing Board. But I agree, the board knew weeks before, if not months before, about the first failed test.
I think you'll find actually contractually they couldn't pull the fight. Whether that's true or not, but that's what Eddie said in an interview, wasn't it? They contractually couldn't pull the fight.
They couldn't, or they could.
British Board of Control pulling it. That's all he said. I don't know.
What he's saying that the promoters couldn't pull the fight.
Yeah.
That to me is a bit of
not before a British Board of Control ruling.
That's a bit of politician talk, in my opinion.
Probably. I'm not denying it is, but I'm just saying what he said. But Yeah, okay.
The thing is,
Or-
Lee, it's easy to just lay the full blame at the British Boxing Board, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, but they have got the blame because Ben's at the moment it's not been proven, has it? Either way, so
No.
he may well be guilty, and a lot of people think he is. Fair enough. And if that comes out, yeah, I agree with Carl 100%. But the only fact at the moment is the British Board of Control were going to let that fight happen knowing his results. That's a fact, and that's disgusting.
But I still think we're looking at this wrong. How can one doping agency find 2 samples in 2 different tests, yet the agency that sanctions that's used to sanction the fights, i.e. UCAD in this instance, because it's in Britain, they found nothing.
Because it's not on the list of banned substances for UCAD.
Well, that's a problem then, isn't it, mate?
Well, this is what I'm going back to. If it's not on the banned substances for UCAD, they're obviously not that bloody worried about it, are they?
They're either not worried about it or they missed it.
And again, if it's I kind of got what Eddie Hearn was saying in the week leading up to it, because how can the British Boxing Board of Control pull that fight when their governing body for doping, anti-doping, is UCAD, and UCAD didn't pick it up in 2 tests? So it just doesn't make any sense, and that even screams more that it was because of the media outcry that they pulled it, because they knew that they were going to have egg on their face. That is the only reason they pulled that fight. That, without a doubt, they didn't give a toss about boxers' safety, about what was in the system. None of that, because otherwise they'd have said straight away, no, even though it's not a banned substance on UCAD, you failed a drug test. That's all there is to it. We're not having the fight, but they were prepared to go ahead with it. So I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on what that drug is and what benefits he would get from it. But yeah.
Carl, just before we go to Sean on this, do you want to pick a couple of them comments up?
So Ryder Walk says the board should have pulled the fight straight away once they had the result, or had it pending until final findings. Phil Westman said, unfortunately, unless you completely clear your name, then you're always under the cloud, just like Canelo. I will always have that doubt. Joe said, I guarantee Ben's lawyers sent gagging orders to the board, testers, etc., to keep the results unknown, just like the White case with UCAD. Ryan says, if UCAD ain't worried about it, why are VADA? And Joe says, Lee defending the undefendable, blaming everyone but Team Ben.
Not at all. I haven't not blamed Team Ben. I've said that he hasn't been proven yet. And I've said, I'm not, this isn't defending Ben. This is having a dig at the British Boxing Board of Control. So he's completely taken what I've said the wrong way, because I'm not defending him. I'm just saying I find them more accountable at the moment.
Sean, you've been very quiet on this because you ain't got a word in edgeways. Let's have your opinion, pal.
Yeah, it's very murky for me. You know, I think until there's some kind of testing agent across the board that everyone accepts, nothing's going to be ever sorted. Because say if UCAD were the sole tester for this fight, the fight would have gone ahead because the drug wasn't on their ban list. So then for me straight away that doesn't make any sense at all, because if it was in America it wouldn't be, because the drug was on the ban list. So yeah. And until they got something across the board, well they just, even if it's only just using one company, then we're never going to get to the bottom of this, I don't think, because they all contradict themselves.
It smacks of how fragmented boxing is in terms of a sport, isn't it?
Absolutely,
it really is. You know,
it's a shame, isn't it? It's a sport we all love,
yeah.
But it's getting dragged through the mire because 2 agencies that test for drugs are not getting the same results, and that's just not acceptable.
So, Lee, you're getting a bit tonight, lad. You are. Ryan says, Lee, wrong again on my grammar and his support for Ben. It ain't the board's fault. The fighter taking testosterone drugs.
Didn't say it was, did I? When did I say it was the board's fault that he took him? I didn't say that. I said it's the board's fault that they knew about it and didn't cancel the fight until the papers got wind of it. That's what I said. And I've said he hasn't been proven to be guilty yet. He may well be. And in which case, all of that stands. But until he's proven guilty or proven his innocence, there remains to be seen, doesn't it? But
it's about as clear as mud where we are at the minute, isn't it? I can't wait for Robert Smith to come out next week, like he's promised in the media, and clarify the situation. Hopefully,
for me, you can only talk about how it was handled at the moment, rather than what he's done, because it remains to be seen. But how people handled it, that was as clear as day. Eddie was in the wrong. Carroll was in the wrong. Sauerland were in the wrong. The British Board of Boxing Control were in the wrong. All of them were in the wrong. But whether he's guilty or not, we'll see, won't we?
But you got to accept there's still a degree of accountability for Ben for even having that in his system. That's the only point I make.
That's true, Carl. If he's intentionally done it and he's found guilty.
Well, not even if he's not intentionally done it. You know, not even if he's not intentionally doing it. You know, it's very black and white for me. And you can blame his nutritionist, you can blame this person, that person, the milkman who brought the milk, or whatever you want to do. He's still got the ultimate responsibility for what goes into his body. Full stop.
You're right, and he'll live and die by that. His career will live and die by that. The only person that is absolutely going to know 100% whether he's done it intentionally is Ben himself.
Ryan says they wouldn't have to handle it if they never took it, but it's their job to handle these situations, Ryan, and they handled it poorly. That's all I was saying.
We're in this situation because you've got two agencies that don't agree. The two agencies that don't test for the same substances, or one of them's testings failed when they were testing for the substance. If you kind of saying that that's not on their testing register, then that's an issue. One way or the other, there's two agencies that boxers trust to make sure that when they fight, they're safe. Because at the end of the day, this is a very, very dangerous sport where people can seriously get hurt or die.
I think it's obvious. I think you get rid of UCAN and use VADA moving forward. That's what
the problem is VADA's not recognised by the British Boxing Board.
At the minute, that's easily remedied, though, isn't it?
There you go. So they recognise an agency that don't even pick these things up.
That's what I mean. It's easily remedied, that isn't it?
As long as they recognise them, Carl. That's the problem, isn't it? The only reason the likes of Ben and Eubanks signed up for VADA is because they want to stay within the WBC's rankings. Otherwise, they won't bother because they have to pay for that. By the way,
a lot of money.
A lot of money to be on this VADA testing system. I mean but part of that makes me think: could he be telling the truth? Is he not guilty? Because why would you pay the serious amount of money you have to pay to be on that testing system, knowing that they're going to find something if you're guilty? It just needs clearing up, one way or the other.
Yep, it's a mess. It's a mess. Right, so I think that'll do it for tonight. Andy, I'll let you take it out tonight.
Once again, we got a little bit heated at times there, which is fantastic because that's what this show's all about. It'd be very boring if we all agreed on everything, wouldn't it? Thanks for everyone in the sidebar. Ryan, don't leave it too long next time. Joe, thanks as always. Everyone else that commented in the sidebar, thanks a lot. Guys, thanks for joining us again. This show, as everyone knows that are on here regular, we're on here every single Thursday at 7 o'clock. There's going to be a lot of stuff dropping on the channel in the next few days. So look out for it. If you haven't currently subscribed, do so and hit the notifications bell and you'll get everything coming through. Thanks for joining us.
Catch you later.